Welcome to this week's edition of World Crisis Radio. This is Webster Tarpley speaking to you from Washington, D.C. We have a big program this week. We have the United States on the verge of default, bankruptcy, and chaos, thanks to the efforts of cliques of fanatics funded by malefactors of great wealth and with the complicity of a Wall Street puppet in the White House. What to do about this? To force them all to do what they don't want to do. It's either a clean bill to raise the debt ceiling, no tax increases, no cuts, no nothing, just one page, raise the debt ceiling, or else the line of last defense, the 14th Amendment, the president must, not an option, but must raise the debt ceiling unilaterally, resume Treasury auctions to avoid chaos and world panic. That's our first point. Second point is we have a world historical turning point, the assassination of the rebel leader Yunus, presumably by the other rebel leader, Haftar, the CIA man. Haftar, Hefter, whatever you call him. Khalifa is his first name. He is the prime suspect. Tribal warfare looms among these chaotic forces backed by NATO and the CIA in Benghazi, with strong al-Qaeda factions, dozens and dozens of armed cliques contending there, and we've even got one group that now emerges as the likely perpetrators. We've got false flag terrorism in Norway, Breivik, the patsy, and we want to go through a summary of all of that. And we've also got some news on the Obama illegitimacy front, and we want to also issue a call for a Berlin airlift for Somalia, massive airdrops of food, water, agricultural implements, seeds, and other necessaries along that trail of tears leading from Somalia into Kenya. Why are these people being made to take the equivalent of a Bataan death march, and many of them die along the way? Massive airdrops, massive. Don't worry, you don't have to put anything on the ground, just parachute drops of huge quantities. Saturate that whole area with food, water, and agricultural implements and seed to get some kind of agriculture going. Drop some small tractors. Drop some other things along the way. That can be done. The Berlin airlift proved it. Why are we dithering? But now let's look into this question of the debt crisis and the looming world panic. The premise of this are two documents that are up on tarpley.net. One is my letter to Congressman Van Hollen. I urge you to take that. Send it to your own congressman, senator. That is what the legislative branch can and should do. Pass a clean bill, simple, one sentence. The debt ceiling of the United States is hereby raised by $2 to $3 trillion. That's a reasonable amount. That's traditionally about what they've done. That's it. No cuts, no taxes, no destruction of entitlements, no nothing. Just one sentence, clean bill. And if you don't want that, it's clear that you want default. You want the U.S. to go bankrupt. The larger document and the newer one this week, what a real president would do. This is now assuming that the Congress continues in its current mode of dithering and haggling, and they can't get themselves together. This was posted on July 27th. The U.S. Constitution makes default illegal. What a real president would do on August 1st, 2011. And we'll get to these provisions in just a minute. The immediate situation here on Friday, July 29th in the afternoon. The default begins on Tuesday. The U.S. government will run out of cash on August 2nd. There is, under the current interpretation, no authority to hold other Treasury auctions. On August 3rd, there is a $35 billion Social Security payment that must be made by law. That's a contract. You can't pick and choose. On the following days, on the 9th, 10th, and 11th of August, we would normally have auctions of the 3-year, the 10-year, and the other maturities, 30-year, I guess, of Treasury bonds. Those cannot be held if this default goes through. On the 15th of August, there's a $30 billion coupon payment due. Need I say that if any of this stuff is interfered with, if you interfere with the Social Security payments, you will have social chaos here in the United States. How many old people will starve? How many will die as a result of this haggling? And if we don't pay the coupon on August 15th, that will lead to a world panic. There's also a refunding auction, which needs to be scheduled in that area. The scheduling on the refunding auction is generally more rigid than the other one. So that's what we're looking at. Now, as we shift our attention to the House of Representatives, we find Congressman Boehner is unable to get a majority even of his own Republican caucus to pass his proposal. Apparently, as of last night, Thursday, the 28th of July, his bill was being blocked by a small number of right-wing fanatics who objected to the increase in Pell Grants. Pell Grants are payments to low-income students to allow them to go to college. And, of course, that's communism. That's Bolshevism. You can't have that. Of course, it's also traditional here in the United States. We've had this. The Pell Grant is really a rather weak substitute for the old National Defense Education Act of my old friend, Senator Ralph Webster Yarborough of Texas. But anyway, the Pell Grant is all we have. And Boehner actually had maintained some payments and, according to some reports, increased the payments for Pell Grants. These reactionary ideologues of the far right decided that this was unacceptable. They're also demanding a balanced budget amendment, and that's the word from today. We have Congressman Flake of Arizona, nomen est omen, Representative Flake. How did he get that name, I wonder? Reminds me of Senator Crapo over on the other side in the Gang of Six. Congressman Flake says that the final Boehner bill will include a balanced budget amendment. They want to tamper with the Constitution. What I've told you repeatedly, they wrap themselves in the Constitution, but they hate it. Every concrete case, they hate the Constitution. They want to tamper it. They want to mutilate it. They want to denature it. Talk about original intent. It looks to me like we're dealing with a direct, frontal, brazen, arrogant attack on original intent. The founders intended that the U.S. Congress shall have the power to borrow money on the credit of the United States. This is one of the key transition points from the failed Articles of Confederation system to the successful United States Constitution. They want to take us back to the chaos of the Articles of Confederation, when states were about to go to war one against the other, when we had that whiskey rebellion out in western Pennsylvania, fomented by the Swiss banker, the traitor, Albert Gallatin, the Secretary of the Treasury, who tried to wreck the United States, the controller of Jefferson, the controller of Madison, who basically almost became the gravedigger of the United States during the War of 1812, who tried to turn the U.S. government finances over to the Girard Bank of Philadelphia and to John Jacob Astor of New York City. That's Gallatin. And the Whiskey Rebellion he helped foment. Flake and these people, the Tea Party, I guess, is really the new Whiskey Rebellion from tea, and it's actually Chinese tea because they're the ones who are laughing, to whiskey. So that's where we stand. Now, that cannot pass, and you can't amend the Constitution within 72 hours. So we've got to find a solution, and I have it on Tarpley.net. Back in a minute.